Night had fallen heavy upon Aragon, and the moon spilled silver across the castle's towers like spilled wine across marble. Julian de Vera, Duke of Aragon, stood at the edge of the courtyard, his cane digging into the stones. His leg, ruined by war, ached with every step, but he bore the weight with the silent dignity of a man who had no choice but to endure. To the world, he was a duke of vast estates, feared on the battlefield, admired in court. To himself, he was a fractured shadow of what he once had been. And yet, fate rarely showed mercy. That evening, as the bells tolled midnight, he made his way to the riverbank at the far edge of his lands. It was there that his weakness betrayed him. His cane slipped on wet stone, his balance faltered, and for a single instant, he was no duke, no warrior, no man of title, only a body falling helpless into black water. The river swallowed him whole. The current was merciless, dragging him under, spinning him through icy darkness. Panic burned his lungs. He clawed, he gasped, but his ruined leg dragged him down. The taste of death filled his mouth. And then, through the roaring water, he thought he heard a voice. A woman's voice. Hold on. Arms wrapped around him. Warm, strong, desperate. His consciousness ebbed, blurred, dissolved into the river's roar. He awoke hours later, shivering, sprawled on a bed of hay in a lantern-lit barn. And there she was. A woman of no title, her dress plain but her bearing defiant. Her dark hair was damp, plastered against her face. She had saved him. You're awake, she whispered. Who are you? His voice cracked, the words ragged. My name is Isabella, she said, her accent betraying her as a commoner from the village beyond his lands. I pulled you from the river. You nearly drowned. A duke should have dismissed her with a gesture, should have turned away, should have reminded her of the gulf between them. But as Julian looked at her, those fierce eyes, those trembling hands, something struck through him, sharper than any blade he had ever faced. It was not gratitude. It was something forbidden. And in the silence of that barn, with the rain still dripping from the roof, the crippled duke realized he had crossed a line from which he might never return. The days that followed blurred into a dangerous rhythm. Julian should have returned to his castle, resumed his life of duty, hidden away the memory of a common woman who had dared touch a duke. Yet he found himself limping down secret paths at night, seeking the barn where Isabella lived. She welcomed him not as a lord but as a man, broken, scarred, uncertain. She laughed when he confessed his temper. She scolded him when he overexerted his leg. She stitched his torn coat herself when he had refused a court tailor. Why do you look at me so? She asked one evening as they sat by the hearth, her hands busy with thread and cloth. Because I forget the pain when you are near, he said. Her needle stilled. Her eyes lifted. The firelight danced between them, but the weight of his words pressed heavier than flame. This cannot be, she whispered. I know. You are promised. To Lady Elvira of Castile. He closed his eyes, a muscle jumping in his jaw. It was arranged before the war. Before my leg. Before you. Then forget me. Her voice broke. I cannot. The air grew tense, thick with the knowledge that they were playing with fire. In the world outside this barn, he was a duke, she a commoner. To be seen together would mean ruin for her, disgrace for him, and war for his house. And yet, he kissed her. He did it with the trembling hesitation of a man who had not allowed himself softness in years. Her lips met his as though she had been waiting for it all her life. The fire roared. The rain hammered the roof. The world outside ceased to exist. Afterward, she pressed her forehead to his chest. This is madness. It is salvation, he murmured. For the first time since the war, I feel alive. But secrets have a way of bleeding into light. Whispers reached the castle. Servants noted the duke's absences. A cloak was seen where it should not have been. And one night, as Julian limped back through the gates, Lady Elvira herself awaited him. Her beauty was cold, sculpted like the marble saints that lined cathedral walls. Where have you been, my lord? She asked sweetly, though her eyes burned like frost. Walking, he lied. Do not mistake me for a fool. Her voice was a blade, and he knew it. She had seen. She knew. You would throw away a kingdom, she hissed, stepping closer, for a village girl who smells of hay and river water? You would shame me before all of Spain. Julian's breath caught. Shame warred with defiance, fear with desire. He had lived his life in chains of duty. But now those chains cut deeper than his ruined leg. And still, he thought of Isabella. Her laughter, her hands, the way she had pulled him from death itself. Lady Elvira's voice dripped venom. End it. Or I will end her. The threat was not idle. In courts where power reigned, a woman like Isabella could vanish without trace. Julian stood at the brink of decision, torn between crown and heart, between honor and love. And in the silence of his chamber that night, he whispered her name into the dark, knowing the storm had only begun. The storm broke with violence. Elvira moved swiftly. Within days, Isabella was taken from the barn, dragged into the castle under pretense of thievery. Chains on her wrists, dirt on her face, she stood before the Duke's council as servants sneered and nobles whispered. "She has stolen what is not hers," Elvira declared, her voice echoing against the vaulted ceiling. "The Duke's dignity. His honor. His future." Julian rose from his chair, the cane trembling in his grip. "Enough. She is a commoner," Elvira pressed. "She dared to touch what belongs to kingdoms. Such insolence cannot be allowed." "She touched what belongs to no one but himself," Julian said, his voice carrying through the hall. His eyes locked on Isabella's. She was pale, but her gaze steady, proud. A murmur swept through the court. This was treason, not of state, but of tradition. "You shame me," Elvira hissed. "I free myself," Julian answered. The council erupted, voices clashing, titles roaring, but Julian silenced them with one strike of his cane against the marble floor. The sound rang like a cannon shot. "This woman saved my life," he declared. "She is my choice. My heart. My salvation. And if Spain itself would stand against me, then so be it." Gasps filled the chamber. Elvira's face twisted with fury. "You will regret this." Perhaps he would. Already he felt the tremors of rebellion, the whispers of alliances breaking, the fragile threads of power unraveling. But none of it mattered when Isabella's eyes met his, brimming with tears, shining with the fire of a love that defied kingdoms. The guards released her. She stumbled, but Julian caught her, his arm steady despite the tremor in his leg. "You should not," she whispered. "I already have." He pressed his forehead to hers before the eyes of the court, sealing his defiance, sealing their fate. The reckoning had come, not with sword or cannon, but with love, raw, forbidden, undeniable. And though kingdoms might rise against them, though the river of time might try to wash them away, the crippled duke and the commoner who saved him stood as one, unyielding, unafraid, baptized once more not in water, but in fire.